One day, the princess was taking a stroll round the village with her maids as usual when she was bitten by a deadly snake. Her maid started screaming for help when a young man who was passing by heard the maid scream for help, and when he got there, he saw the princess laying unconscious on the ground, and he quickly carried her to the palace. Welcome to Chama's Folk Tales. Today's story is Few days later, Dinta regained his strength and was afraid to go close to the princess because of her father, the king. But the princess assured him that her father will never try that again, and she also promised Dinta that no matter what people say or do, that she will never stop loving him and she will never marry someone else. The two lovebirds promised to be strong for each other and never let go. Many weeks passed by, and their love became stronger despite the challenges that comes their way. One day, the princess was taking a stroll round the village with her maids as usual when she was bitten by a deadly snake. Her maid started screaming for help when a young man who was passing by heard the maid scream for help, and when he got there, he saw the princess laying unconscious on the ground, and he quickly carried her to the palace. When they got to the palace, King Ojemba saw his daughter and was worried about her present condition. He asked the maids what happened to the princess, and they told him that she was bitten by a dangerous snake. Immediately, King Ojemba sent for the chief priest, the eyes of the gods. Few hours later, the chief priest arrived at the palace, and King Ojemba told him what happened. The chief priest did some incantations, brought out some herbs from his bag and placed them on the princess' nose. But the princess did not wake up. The chief priest did some incantations again. This time he shook his head and demanded to speak with the king in private. And he told the king that the princess will be well if only they get a leave from the evil forest. Until then, the princess will not wake up, and she only have 14 days to live if the leave is not found and brought for her treatment. King Ojemba asked Enggement what is the name of the leaf and how does it look like. Enggement smiled and said to the king, "It is called the oldest young leaf at the center of the forest. It is very small and greenish in nature, but powerful. It is the oldest of all leaves and also the most beautiful leaf in the forest of Iru. But Enggement, the evil forest is very dangerous and deadly. No one has ever been there and come back alive. How do we get the leaf?" King Ojemba asked. "Only a brave man from this land must embark on the journey to the evil forest in search of the leaf. You are the king and must set a profitable reward to anyone who is able to go to the evil forest and bring the leaf. Don't forget, only 14 days for her or she will die." The chief priest said to King Ojemba, and he left the palace at once. King Ojemba asked the town crier to deliver the message to everyone in the village. Throughout that day, no one came to the palace to volunteer their life for the princess, except Dinta, who told the chief priest that he was ready. When Dinta heard the bad news, he was worried about the princess. He personally went to the chief priest and told him he is ready to go to the evil forest in search of the leaf in order for the princess to be well again. The chief priest said to him that the evil forest is not a child's journey, and it takes only a brave man to go there and come back alive. Dinta replied the chief priest, saying that he can and will do anything for the one he loves, even if it costs him his life. With the words from his heart and love in his eyes, the chief priest can tell that Dinta is fully ready and made up his mind for the journey. King Ojemba sent for Mazi Amadi and his son Ugu. When they got there, they thought the king had sent for them for good news. "Your Highness, you sent for us," Mazi Amadi said. "Yes, I did," King Ojemba replied. "What is the good news?" Mazi Amadi asked again. "I'm afraid to say this. The princess is in danger." King Ojemba told Mazi Amadi and his son everything that happened and the solutions to the problem. Before King Ojemba could say any further, Mazi Amadi cut him short, saying that they thought that he had sent for them concerning his son's proposal to the princess, only for them to get to the palace and be hearing different story. King Ojemba pleaded with Mazi Amadi to help him talk to his son to volunteer for the journey to the evil forest in search of the leaf. But Mazi Amadi and his son refused to the king's request. Mazi Amadi further said that he cannot risk his son's life for anyone, not even for the princess, that the king should look for someone else to do that, and when the princess gets well, he should let them know so that they can continue from where they stopped concerning the marriage, and they left. King Ojemba was surprised at Mazi Amadi and his son, and he said to himself, "I thought he loved the princess." King Ojemba was worried about the princess' present situation, walking from pole to pole in his chamber with his hands folded. Few minutes later, the chief priest walked in with Dinta. When King Ojemba saw Dinta, he was ashamed of what he did to him and asked Dinta to forgive him and help him save the princess. When Enggement said to him that Dinta has volunteered to embark to the journey to the evil forest to bring the leaf in which he will use to heal the princess, King Ojemba was very happy to hear that finally someone volunteered to save his only child, the princess. King Ojemba said to Dinta that if he could bring the leaf, that he would give him the princess as his wife, and Enggement will bear him witness. The next day, very early in the morning, Enggement, King Ojemba, and some elders followed Dinta to the boundary between Oruru community and the evil forest. Meanwhile, Enggement has fortified Dinta for the journey and said to Dinta that he will encounter so many spirits on his way, but he should never be distracted by their looks or words, and he should not eat or drink anything from the evil forest. Dinta's mother was worried about her only child. She hugged him and wished him well. First day in the evil forest, Dinta encountered with so many spirits, but he remembered Enggement's words and warning, and he gathered some strength and courage and passed his first test. It was 7 days already. Dinta was sitting under a tree thinking of which direction he would follow that leads to the leaf, when suddenly his father's ghost appeared to him, pointing at the direction that led to the path where he could find the leaf, but warned him to be careful. He also told him that he would encounter the great giant spirit who was in charge of the leaf, but could be easily defeated with a song, and he disappeared immediately. On the other hand, at the palace, King Ojemba was worried about his daughter and at the same time praying for Dinta to return back home with the powerful leaf. Dinta arrived at the tree. He was about to take the leaf when the giant spirit appeared and stopped him. He challenged him to a fight before he would be able to get the leaf. Dinta stood for a while thinking of how to defeat the giant spirit. Then he remembered what his father told him earlier. Then he brought out a flute from his bag and began to sing. He sang for a while and noticed that the giant spirit was carried away by the song. Then he seized it as an opportunity He quickly took the leaf and ran as fast as he could before the giant spirit would notice that he cheated him. He ran to a point very far from where the giant spirit was, and he sat down to take a deep breath, thinking of how to get to the village on time before night falls. An old woman appeared and requested him to give her water to drink. He was left with little water which would sustain him till he get to the village, but on a second thought, he decided to give the old woman the water. When the old woman asked him why he gave her the water, instead of keeping it to himself, then he replied the old woman saying that she needed the water more than him, and beside that, water is life and has no enemy. The old woman smiled and asked him to close his eyes. He obeyed without hesitations, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself at the boundary between the forbidden forest and the village where he started his journey. He thanked the gods for making his journey quick and easy, and he began to run towards the palace to deliver the leaf to the chief priest. When King Ojemba saw Dinta from afar, he smiled, and out of excitement, he started singing and dancing, praising the gods for bringing Dinta back home safely. Dinta gave the leaf to the chief priest to prepare the medicine. After some incantations, he rubbed the herbs in between his palm and squeezed out 2 drops of its juice inside the princess' mouth, and also placed the herbs on her nose to inhale it. After a few minutes, Princess Ogechi sneezed and opened her eyes for the very first time in so many days. Everyone gathered at the palace was happy. King Ojemba was the most happiest man among all, for he thought he had lost his only hope. Soon, the news spread round the village like a heavy lightning. King Ojemba thanked Dinta for risking his own life for his daughter, the princess, and told him to bring his people in 7 market days for the payment of the bride price. He immediately crowned him as the next king after his death. Few minutes later, Mazi Amadi and his son arrived at the palace after hearing the good news. Mazi Amadi said to King Ojemba that since Princess Ogechi had recovered, they should start preparing for the marriage rites between the princess and his son Ugo. Before he could say further, King Ojemba shut him up and said to him that he would never give his only child to a man like his son Ugo, who would abandon her in time of trouble and storm. He also said that the only man who deserved the princess was Dinta, and that he made a mistake by hurting Dinta in the past because of his selfish desires for material things and friendship. He also cut all ties with Mazi Amadi and asked his guards to throw them out of his palace. Dinta's uncle Amechi bowed his head in shame and pleaded with Dinta to forgive him for all his wrongdoings, and Dinta forgave him wholeheartedly. Dinta's mother was extremely happy for her son and Princess Ogechi. Dinta's mother and King Ojemba gave them their blessings. 7 days later, everyone was present at the palace to celebrate with them. They had enough to drink and eat, and 9 months later, they were blessed with a healthy baby boy. Everyone was happy that finally the kingship was retained. The child was named Obieze by King Ojemba. Few years later, King Ojemba passed away, and together Dinta and Princess Ogechi ruled the kingdom with love and peace. The end. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this story. Let me know at the comment section. Please support our channel by subscribing, like and comment below. It really helps us to grow more. And I'm specially dedicating this story to all my YouTube family for the 500 subscribers. You guys are amazing. And I'm using this opportunity to say thank you all for your support, love, time, and courage. And may God continue to bless you all for supporting our channel. And I know we are heading to 1,000 subscribers soon by the grace of God. Amen. See you all soon in our next story. Bye.